I just got goosebumps reading that, and this might be my most anticipated book of the year. We're gonna go through the year from January to December. Releases, what's coming out, what sounds good. Here we go. Hello, my book buddies, and happy 2025. A fresh year, a fresh start, a clean slate, new reading goals. I asked over on my Instagram what videos you all want to see, and I got an idea that I'd never thought of that. And that is, what new releases for 2025 am I most excited for? This is where I confess to you, I have never thought of that. I am not the kind of reader that plans out my reading year. I don't know when new books are being released. Normally I go to the bookstore and I'm just surprised. I'll see a new book in a series I read, or a new book by my favorite authors, and I'm just shocked, excited. But I did some research because of this idea. Thank you to whoever sent it in. I want to know, what books am I excited for? So I have a list of a good amount of books. I think there's at least 20. Let's chat about them. They're all different genres, and while we do that, I am going to take my pretty little book embosser and emboss some books because I don't know why. I just wanted to do something while we chatted. I got this on Etsy. Here, let me show you what it looks like. So you just take this little bad boy, you go to your page, and then it looks like that. So if I lend this out, everyone will know it's mine. It says, from the library of Samantha Conway. If you didn't know, that's my married last name. So I am very excited because I think that 2025 is actually going to be a really good reading year for me. There's a lot of books that are coming out this year that are so exciting for me. We're going to go through the year from January to December. Releases, what's coming out, what sounds good. Here we go. Starting off strong with a book that I actually pre-ordered, and that is Onyx Storm. So this is the third book in the, I'm gonna just call it the Fourth Wing series. It's called like the Imperi, I don't know how to say it. I'm excited about it, but also Iron Flame, I think I read in 2024, and it must not have got like a crazy good rating from me. What did it get rated? Because I haven't really thought about it since, and I probably should have reread it because I feel like I don't remember a lot of it. But the third book in the series, so if you don't know Fourth Wing, you've been living under a rock. So Fourth Wing is a little like dragon series. It's romantasy, it's spicy. We are following Violet. We're at a war college is where it takes place. One of the quadrants is the Dragon Riders, which is what our main character ends up being, spoiler alert, and we're following her and her whole little war brigade. That book's coming out at the start of January. It should be here next week. It's going to be a monster of a book, and I'm going to devour it the second it comes in. Next is a little bit of a surprising pick for me, and that is Spiral. So this is from the Off the Ice series. This is the second book, and if you know me, I don't like a sports romance, so why the heck do I have a hockey and ballerina romance on books I'm excited for list? And that is, I was a ballet dancer growing up. Oh my gosh, I loved ballet, I loved dancing, loved dance so much. I have twin boys. I enrolled them in baby dance class when they were 4 months old. It was more for me. So for that reason, I just want to read this. This is one that really is intriguing to me. Just, I don't know, seems fun. I didn't read the first book in the series. Normally with these romances, you don't have to read the first book. It's not like they're following the same people. It's normally just a side character's little romance now. Another book coming out in January is A Sea of Unspoken Things by Adrienne Young, who wrote The Unmaking of June Farrow, which is a book I haven't read but is on my radar as something I'd like to read. I'm just going to tell you what it's about. So it says, a woman investigates her brother's mysterious death while coming to terms with her own haunting past. The only thing James and Johnny Golden have ever had is each other. They're twins. I'm a mom of twins, so I don't know, that just made me want to read it, although I think one of them is dead. For as long as she can remember, James's deep connection with her twin brother Johnny has gone beyond intuition. She can feel what he feels. So when Johnny is killed in a tragic accident, James knows before her phone even rings that her brother is gone and that she's alone, truly alone for the first time in her life. And then it turns out maybe he's not as gone as she thought. I don't know, sounds intriguing. I know that she's a really good writer. Moving on to February. I'm someone who loves thrillers. This is really intriguing to me. It's Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister. She's the author who wrote Wrong Place, Wrong Time, and also she wrote Just Another Missing Person. Both books I read. Wrong Place, Wrong Time was a 4-star thriller for me. Just Another Missing Person was 3. So I'm excited that she has another book coming out. Here's the blurb. It's June 21st, the longest day of the year, And the life of new mother Camilla is about to change forever. After months of maternity leave, she will drop off her infant daughter at daycare for the first time and return to her job as a literary agent. But when she wakes, her husband Luke isn't there, and in his place is a cryptic note. Then it starts. Breaking news, a hostage situation is developing in London. The police tell her Luke is involved, but he isn't a hostage. Her husband, doting father, eternal optimist, is the gunman. I just got goosebumps reading that. Like, no joke. Sounds so good to me. If you can hear a song about peeing on the potty in the background, ignore it. We're potty training twin toddlers. Next we have Close Your Eyes and Count to 10 by Lisa Unger. The blurb: when the real game begins, who will make it to the count of 10? Charismatic daredevil and extreme adventurer. Charismatic daredevil and I can't speak. Charismatic daredevil. Oh my goodness. Charismatic daredevil and extreme adventurer Maverick Dillon invites you to the ultimate game of hide and seek. But as the players gather on Falco Island, the events quickly spiral into a chilling test of survival. A storm rages as a deadly threat stalks the contestants, turning the challenge into something far more sinister than the social media stunt it was intended to be. This one intrigues me, so I'm definitely going to be getting it. My wife almost exclusively reads thrillers, so if you see a thriller on this list, it's almost guaranteed that we will be buying it because it's all she reads. So anytime there's a new thriller, it basically goes on this TBR. And the third book coming out in February that I'm excited for, I had no clue was even coming out. This is how bad I am at knowing when books come out. It's the third book in the Emily Wilde series. I have loved this series. The first and second book were on my top 24 books of 2024. So the fact that I didn't know a third book was even coming, let alone coming out in February, is a little embarrassing. The Emily Wilde series, I think, is like pretty cozy fantasy. It is kind of high stakes though at times, so it's kind of just fantasy maybe? I don't know, something about it feels very cozy to me. There is a romance plot, but I wouldn't categorize this book series as romantasy personally. We're following Emily Wilde in this series, who is a Cambridge professor, and she studies fairies. I can't really say more because I don't want to spoil the last two books in the series. Moving on to March. Another thriller, This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. I love the cover. So it says that it is a chilling, compulsive story of 5 amateur sleuths whose hunt for an elusive killer catapults them into danger as the world watches. It's the most famous crime in modern history, but only she knows the true story. After the unexpected death of her father, college student Jane Sharp longs for a distraction from her grief. She becomes obsessed with true crime, befriending armchair detectives who teach her how to hunt killers from afar. In this morbid internet underground, Jane finds friendship, purpose, and even glory. So when news of the shocking deaths of 3 college girls in Delphine, Idaho, take the world by storm and sleuths everywhere race to solve the crimes, Jane and her friends are determined to beat them. But the case turns out to be stranger than anyone expected. Details don't add up, the police are cagey, and there seems to be more media hype and internet theorizing than actual evidence. When Jane and her sleuths take a step closer, they find that every answer only begs more questions. Something's not adding up, and they begin to suspect their killer may be smarter and more prolific than any they faced before. Placing themselves in the center of the story, it starts to feel more and more like walking into a trap. Told 1 year after the astounding events that conclude the case and left the world reeling, when Jane has finally decided to break her silence about what really happened, she tells this true story of the Delphine massacres, and what she has to confess will shock even the most seasoned true crime fans. That sounds really, really good to me. How many times am I going to say that sounds good to me in this video? Moving on to April, there is a new Emily Henry book coming out. It is called Great Big Beautiful Life. I've honestly not read many books by Emily Henry, but the one that I have read, Book Lovers, was one of my favorite books of last year. I love her writing style. I think that she is so clever and well-spoken, and while I'm not a romance reader, I say this all the time but then end up actually liking romance, but I would say I am not really a straight romance reader, but I love the way she writes. The blurb: 2 writers compete for the chance to tell the larger-than-life story of a woman with more than a couple of plot twists up her sleeve in this dazzling and sweeping new novel by Emily Henry. Alice Scott is an eternal optimist, still dreaming of her big writing break. Hayden Anderson is a Pulitzer Prize-winning human thundercloud, and they're both on balmy little Crescent Island for the same reason, to write the biography of a woman no one has seen in years, or at least to meet with the octogenarian who claims to be the Margaret Ives, tragic heiress, former tabloid princess, and daughter of one of the most storied and scandalous families of the 20th century. when Margaret invites them both for a 1-month trial period, after which she'll choose the person who will write her story, there are 3 things keeping Alice's head in the game. 1, Alice genuinely likes people, which means people usually like Alice, and she has a whole month to win the legendary woman over. 2, she's ready for this job and the chance to impress her perennially unimpressed family with a serious publication. And 3, Hayden Anderson, who should have no reason to be concerned about losing this book, is glowering at her in a shaken to the core way that suggests he sees her as competition. But the problem is Margaret is only giving each of them pieces of her story, pieces they can't swap to put together because of an ironclad NDA and an inconvenient yearning pulsing between them every time they're in the same room, and it's becoming abundantly clear that their story, just like the tale Margaret's spinning, could be a mystery, tragedy, or love ballad, depending on who's telling it. Long blurb. Moving on to May. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. So this blurb claims that this is going to be the next big romantasy phenomenon, and I love romantasy, so I'm gonna have to see if this lives up to the hype. It says, a gothic, mist-cloaked tale of a prophetess who is forced beyond the safety of her cloister on an impossible quest to defeat the gods with one knight whose future is beyond her sight. I don't have time to read the whole blurb, but I'm intrigued. Next we have a sequel. Again, I'm so bad at knowing when books come out. A Curse Carved in Bone, which is the 2nd book in the Saga of the Unfated by Daniel L. Jensen. So this is a sequel to A Fate Inked in Blood. I don't want to say too much about this because, again, I don't want to ruin the first book in the series and the reveals that we have, but it's like a Norse gods, Viking, fae kind of situation. I liked the first book enough that I do want to read the second. Another book coming out in May is One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune, and this might be my most anticipated book of the year. I love Carly Fortune's books. I actually am like stamping them right now. So if you have read Every Summer After, One Golden Summer takes us back to Barry's Bay. Honestly, this is my least favorite Carly Fortune book, but One Golden Summer is going to take us back to Barry's Bay where this takes place, and instead of following Sam Florak, who is the love interest in this one, they're going to be following Charlie. I think that Carly Fortune writes the most perfect summer romances. The whole vibe is impeccable. They make me want to just like read on the beach. Moving on to June, we're getting a new Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and I historically have really liked her books. Actually, right now I'm reading one. I'm reading Carrie Soto is Back. Her new book is called Atmosphere, and we're going to space. The blurb says that it's an epic new novel set against the backdrop of the 1980s space shuttle program about the extraordinary lengths we go to live and love beyond our limits. Our main character is obsessed with the stars for as long as she can remember, thoughtful and reserved. Joan is content with her life as a professor of physics and astronomy. That is until she comes across an advertisement seeking the first woman scientist to join NASA's space shuttle program. Suddenly, Joan burns to be one of the few people to go to space. Da 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 da. One of my favorite thriller authors is Lisa Jewell. Her books are normally 5 stars for me, and she has a new thriller coming out. It's called Don't Let Him In. Time for the blurb. 3 women are connected by one man in this kaleidoscopic thriller. Restaurateur Patty Swan was the life of the party. One day a man pushed him in the path of an oncoming train, leaving his 20-something daughter Ash and wife Nina devastated. Shortly after Patty's funeral, the 2 women receive a surprise in the mail, a note and package from Nick Radcliffe, an old friend of Patty's and a nondescript lighter that once belonged to him decades ago. This unexpected gift draws Nick and Nina closer together, much to Ash's dismay. Martha is a small-town florist with dreams of expansion. She lives with her second husband, Al, her baby, and 2 sons from her prior marriage, but they never seem to have any money, and with this constant travel for work, she feels like a single parent, especially when an emergency makes her realize something needs to change. But Nick and Al may not be who they say they are, leading these 3 women on a shocking collision course, wishing they had heeded a warning, don't let him in. Riley Sager is an author that for me, his books either hit the mark and are amazing or completely miss it and I don't like them at all. He has a new book coming out. It's called With a Vengeance. Riley's a thriller author. It says One Train, No Stops, a deadly game of survival and revenge. In 1942, 6 people destroyed Anna Matheson's family. 12 years later, she's ready for retribution. Under false pretenses, Anna has lured those responsible for her family's downfall onto a luxury train from Philadelphia. Oh my gosh, I can't speak today. From Philadelphia to Chicago, an overnight journey of 14 hours. Her goal, confront the people who've wronged her, get them to confess their crimes, and deliver them into the hands of authorities waiting at the end of the line. Justice will be served at last, but Anna's plan is quickly derailed by the murder of one of the passengers. As the train barrels through the night, it becomes clear that someone else on board is enacting their own form of revenge, and that they won't stop until everyone else is dead. Sounds good. How many times will I say it? We have another thriller, The Bachelorette Party by Camilla Sten. So we have a remote island nestled off the coast of Sweden. We have 4 friends. They meet every year. Best friends since childhood. The idea is to drink beer, dance by the water, and shake off the weight of life's expectations. One night of reckless fun and secret sharing, and then they return to their normal lives. 10 years later, ever since she was a teenager, Tessa has been consumed by the story of 4 friends who disappeared on their annual trip to a remote island together. Okay. As her true crime fervor, I don't know, turned into a widely popular podcast, Tessa urgently covered Sweden's most gruesome cases, but could never find the answers behind what happened to these women who disappeared. Now Tessa's podcast has crashed and burned. Any chance she had at uncovering the truth vanished with it. Annalise is Tessa's best friend, and before she walks down the aisle, she wants to have a bachelorette party. Tessa will not pass this up. It's her last chance to find out what happened before women once and for all, and it's someone else's last chance to get revenge. Okay. This is also where I tell you I'm finding like no good new releases that are queer coming out, so please share them down below, because I don't know, every list that I've found of books coming out is all so straight. When it comes to July, there's a new fantasy book that looks good. It's called Immortal Consequences, and the series is going to be called The Souls of Blackwood Academy, and this is by L.V. or I.V. Marie. 6 students at Blackwood Academy, a boarding school located on the edge of the afterlife, must compete for the once-in-eternity chance to change their fate or risk remaining in purgatory forever. Tell me more. I haven't read this book yet, A Study in Drowning. It's on my TBR, obviously behind me, but there's a sequel coming out called A Theory of Dreaming. I don't even know what the first book's about, so can't tell you what the second book's about, but I think I'll definitely be reading it if this one's interesting to me. And once we get to October, The Ballad of Fallen Dragons is coming out. This is the sequel to When the Moon Hatched, which was a romantasy series that I really liked. They came out last year. Again, I don't want to spoil things, so I can't tell you what the second book's going to be about, but I really liked the first book in the series, so I'll definitely be picking up the second. But that's where the list ends, because once we get to the last 6 months of the year, there's really not much on what books are going to be released. That is the end of the books that I am excited for coming out this year. Please let me know any recommendations that you have, any books that you know are coming out this year that you think are going to be great and worth a read. I really want to read more queer fiction again, and like I said, that list was severely lacking, as in none of them were queer. I just couldn't find any. I'm sure I'll find them like I always do, just going to bookstores and browsing. My local bookstore always has a great LGBTQ plus section, so I'm sure I'll find lots there. But in the meantime, share your ideas down below. What are you most excited for coming out in 2025? I'll be back so soon with another video. It's definitely going to be a reading vlog, so stay tuned for that. I've been reading lots. Can't wait to share it all with you. Happy 2025, book buddies! New year, new reading goals. Also, let me know down below maybe how many books you want to read in 2025. I'm sorry for all the little voices in the back. I'll be back soon with another video. Happy 2025. I'll see you next week.